Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. We learned last week of the death of Daniel Suidani, an opposition leader in the Solomon Islands. The Pacific island nation, it lies northeast of Australia and it plays a key role in the geopolitics of the Pacific. This has, of course, been especially true since 2019, when it ceased being a diplomatic partner of Taiwan and it recognized the PRC, or People's Republic of China, instead. 3 years later, the Solomon Islands also signed a security deal with China by 2022, which created a potential window of opening for China to expand its footprint in the Pacific region. Daniel Suidani was the most prominent and most visible opponent of his country's turn towards Beijing. He was the premier of Malaita, the Solomon Islands' most popular province, and although the capital Honiara is located on a different island. Suidani was the head of Malaita government from 2019 until his removal in 2023. And during his tenure, he was very vocal about his opposition to China and his staunch support for Taiwan. We spoke with Daniel Suidani last year. Let's take a look at what he said.
We share the same values and principles. We want to have friendship with those who have the same value with us, those who respect our culture, our values in our country. A good friend like Taiwan cannot be, pushed out easily.
Today, we will look into the Solomon Islands politics at the time of Mr. Suidani's passing, its relationship with China, Taiwan, and beyond, and explore further the island country and its role in global affairs. Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I am Wen-Ti Song. Today, we are joined by three distinguished guests. First, we have Cai Rongxiang, National Zhongzheng University Political Science Professor, Yuan Yi, National Chenchi University Institute of International Relations Adjunct Research Fellow. Last but not least, joining us from Montreal is Claire Pascal, Foundation for Defense of Democracy's Indo-Pacific Senior Fellow and expert on China, India, and Pacific Island security. So first, I want to come to Professor Yan. Obviously, we know that Solomon Islands switched relations away from Taiwan towards China around 2019. So I think for those of us who are not so familiar with the episode, can you just give us a very brief overview of what happened back then and why?
The very diplomatic derecognition signified a very important power shift on three levels: on bilateral, on regional, and on global. I think when it comes to the forefront, Taiwan lost one important ally. It is a small state, but it's no small business. So the cross-border relation entered into a very, very critical juncture. So, and also on the regional level, I think with the intrusion of Solomon's newly admitted allies, added a very, very unusual political elements onto the political terrain on the regional basis. And lastly, on the global level, I think with the rise of China, China made a very, very important strategic breakthrough, enter into the terrain of the Pacific. So all in all, I think this episode provide with the live ammunition for the rest of the world to ponder.
Thanks for that. And I want to come to you, Professor Cai here. So obviously a major shift for Solomon Islands, right? Changing from Taiwan to China. And can you just give us a hint or two about what was the political terrain inside Solomon Islands like at the time? Like who were the main actors and who did Daniel Suidani, what role did he play in the whole debate?
Okay, it was former Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare. He gave China a green light by signing a security pact with the Somalian island and threw a book at Taiwan by severely diplomatic relations. And the current Prime Minister, Jeremiah Manine, followed suit, and he pursued the PRC relationship as a pathway to rapid infrastructure development, that kind of stuff. And Daniel Suidani, he was from the second largest island, and he was the former premier of Malaita Province. And the thing is that Suidani became the most prominent internal opponent. He issued the Oki communique in 2019, which banned PRC-affiliated investors and development projects in Malaita. So Suidani was eventually ousted in 2023, following a political battle with the central government. The whole thing is that in Malaita, a lot of people, they try to support Suidani's anti-China posture, and they staged a large-scale protest against the central government. So it's kind of like an internal division. So it's very, very intense, especially in that year, because they try to protest against the China influence in Somalian island.
And I want to come to Cleo, our guest. So we're wondering, again, Solomon Islands obviously carry significant geostrategic meaning for the world. That's why we're caring so much about it. And can you give us a pointer or two about what's the strategic meaning and significance for the rest of the world, Solomon Islands?
Yes, absolutely. And taking the very useful framing of the local, the regional, and the geopolitical, locally, what happened after the switch, which is what they call it locally from Taiwan to China, this didn't happen out of thin air. There was a very long-term Chinese on-the-ground effort to cultivate local politicians who they could then support and go up into the central government, so that when there was an opening, they could support the switch. And that's what they did, particularly with the former premier of Guadalcanal. And the effect locally was, the biggest one was the establishment of a Chinese embassy. And those Chinese embassies can function like forward operating bases, intelligence collecting, influence peddling, that sort of stuff. So that locally was the big shift, the establishment of the Chinese embassy. Regionally, we just saw in the recent Pacific Island Forum regional meeting, the Solomon Islands government blocked the entry of Taiwan, who is a long-term partner of the Pacific Island Forum. At the same time, for the federal government to justify that, they ended up blocking all of the development partners. And that really didn't affect China because they already had their people on the ground. So regionally, it's also been very disruptive. And strategically, globally, the establishment of that agreement, that security agreement, created a precedent that I suspect you're going to see the Chinese pushing quite strongly in other locations as well.
I see, and I think that segues very nicely into a broader discussion about China. But yeah, before that, I'd say, in the last month, it was reported that the Solomon Islands is also emulating an extensive surveillance system from rural China. And that includes taking fingerprints of villages and the use of drones. So I want to come to you, I think, Professor Yuan. Can you give us a sense of what are the implications or concerns here about Solomon Islands adopting the use of Chinese surveillance system?
I think what you referred to are the technical aspect. I think according to the report, that China offer assistance at the request of the local government, all right, on many fronts. Police forces constitute the foremost elements. You know, as we are aware that Solomon Island is a state without troops. So it is administered by thousands of law enforcement officials. So China offer what they are good at about, that this is a technical export to foreign land as how to monitor, control crowd, all right, provide with the state-of-the-art technology. Those are the technical aspect. I think but I like to remind our audience that this is not the first time. I think foreign elements, has done before at the request of a local government to provide assistance as how to administer the states. So it's a very vulnerable society that require external stimuli equipped with the necessary tools. So this is something that we have to reckon with. But somehow that this is in contrast with what transparent, inclusive, or elements that the civil society that needs to address.
I see, and I want to talk about Chinese influence in the region with Professor Tsai. I was wondering, can you share your views on how much, if at all, China's influence has been growing in Solomon Islands in recent years?
Yeah, China has sold a bill of goods to the Solomon Islands. So the most visible sign is the 2022 second security agreement. The thing is that it allows China to send police, armed police, military personnel, and other law enforcement forces to the Solomon Island, upon request, of course. The thing is that China provides policy training, equipment, and has Chinese police officers deployed. So the concern is this: the big brother from China is watching you. So because China has become a major cleavage point in the Solomon Island politics, so it creates a very, very deep divide that polarizes the political arena of Solomon Islands. For example, pro-China versus pro-traditional partners. So central government, they try to be pro-China and champions the China relationship for its rapid infrastructure and development. But for the opposition, it's they want to return a more balanced foreign policy, prioritizing traditional partners like Australia, New Zealand, and US. So they opposed the security agreement, especially in secrecy.
Indeed, and Cleo, I want to wonder what's your view as well, like this whole China issue that is becoming a bigger factor in Solomon Islands. Has it been politically controversial at all? Like, is relation with China a divisive issue in Solomon Island politics, or is it more of a consensus issue?
It's deeply divisive, and it's the population in the Solomons has made its position on it clear over and over, including in the most recent election, where many of the federal government ministers who were very pro-China did not get reelected. You mentioned the prime minister who replaced the premier who replaced Suidani didn't get reelected. But the problem is that there's a situation where people get elected and then there's a period of time before there's a formation of government because they don't have these firm parties. And those independents get co-opted by Chinese money and end up, again, pushing a pro-China agenda. And I'd just like to mention this thing about police, because I think that the way that democracy looks at police is very different than the way that the Chinese Communist Party looks at police. So this policing that is being provided by China is much more accurately described as state security. They're there to defend the authoritarian regime, or increasingly authoritarian regime, that's being backed by Beijing. And so when you see on the streets, many of the local people feel threatened and scared of these police who may be relatives of them, but suddenly they're becoming part of a state security apparatus that wasn't there before. They're not helping solve stolen bicycles or minor crime. They're there to put down any democratic dissent that might threaten those in power. If you truly wanted security and long-term stability in Solomon Islands, you would revert to the Townsville Peace Agreement, which gives much more autonomy to places like Malaita. So if they say, we don't want the CCP to operate here, they would have the right to do so. But by centralizing the power with the backing of Beijing and the increasingly muscular state security forces, they're in a position to push down that sort of democratically earned and negotiated through the peace agreement.
And Cleo, I know that you've recently written a long analysis on these issues for the Sunday Guardian, and you found that Solomon Islands has its own healthcare system significantly under Chinese control, and that you argue that it's another one visible aspect of how the Quad countries, including India, Japan, US, and Australia, they seem to be struggling to keep up with China's expanding footprint in the region. So I was wondering, Cleo, again, if you can share with us your breakdown of the Quad countries' general attitude and approach towards managing relations with Solomon Islands.
So unfortunately, Australia has very much taken the lead and kind of pushed the other countries out of the way. But one exception to this was the Prime Minister of India. Prime Minister Modi visited Papua New Guinea in 2023, and he promised healthcare across the region. Now, the Pacific Islands are in desperate need of healthcare, as you saw when Daniel Suidani was sick the first time and had to be brought to Taiwan for medical care. In this situation, the Indians had given a dialysis machine to the Solomon Islands, but they were never put into use. So when Daniel Suidani came to hospital with kidney failure, the only option for him was a dialysis machine that had been donated by China. All the instructions were in Mandarin, and it is being administered by a Chinese doctor being paid for by the Chinese government.
I see. And yes, so briefly, Professor Yuan, I wonder what would be your view, your assessment about the Quad countries' efficacy of the approach to Solomon Islands?
To their dismay, I think with the forthcoming of power intrusion of China, stunned them. Therefore, I think the responses are as follows. I think including a more frequent visit of minister of different capital, including Australia. I think Penny Wang had made twice a visit to the capital, and also Japanese foreign minister made one visit. I think it reminds us about the Indo-Pacific Czar of United States, Kirk Campbell. He himself made it twice a visit, which all in all suggests that the Quad nation recognized this is about the time for all of them pay more attention on the ground by personal visit, so that would facilitate more interaction amongst the leaders, one way or the other. So that's so far we have, they are able to push further about on their political agenda.
Mm. Reacting to his death on X, formerly known as Twitter, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs called Daniel Suidani a steadfast friend of Taiwan. So it's clear that Taiwan saw Suidani as a friend, and that Taiwan continued to value highly its friendship with the Solomon Islands people. As Taiwan looks forward, however, building sustainable long-term relationship between Taiwan and the Solomon Islands people, of course, requires more anchors and more than any one or two political figures. So Taiwan needs to think about ways forward. Now, I want to come to you, Professor Tsai, here. So given this new situation, what do you think that Taiwan can do to strengthen its relationship with the Solomon Islands nowadays, either by itself or perhaps in concert with other friends and partners?
Yeah, we don't have an official relationship with the Solomon Islands right now, but still we can provide some humanitarian aid to the island. And the thing is that, some of our former allies, they try to miss the good old days with Taiwan, because we are not going to undermine their sovereignty. We are not going to send our police to their country, okay? It's kind of equal, it's an equal relationship between Taiwan and our ally. But the thing is that China didn't put its money where its mouth was, because the thing is that they try to keep a lot of promise. They try to say, okay, we're gonna open a gold mine up here. We're gonna compensate for you guys. But in the end, they didn't get much money from the compensation. So China didn't keep words, okay? So the thing is that they try to poach our allies. Right now, we only have 3 countries in the Pacific Islands. I'm so concerned about this, because they are keeping pushing and pushing. But the thing is that in the end, they will understand who is your real friend, because someone will just take advantage of you and try to take your resources to China. And it's like a sugar-coated poison. So this is not good for the development of the country. But for Australia, they try to double down engagement because they try to say maybe we should focus more for your need. And maybe it's a good thing for the Solomon Island. But the thing is that Solomon Island is a gateway state for Australia. It's so important strategically. So that's the situation going on. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm curious. Can you explain a little bit about how, in what way, Solomon Islands an important strategic gateway for Australia?
Because it's just up north, right? And so if you want to from United States and China, it's kind of a passing route, right? Passing route to Australia. So Guadalcanal battle, that's the evidence because U.S. used to fight with the Japanese over there. So this is a very, very, the location is very important to Australia and to New Zealand as well. So, of course, they are so concerned because when the Solomon Island please China and it displease Australia, because you cannot have both ways in international politics.
Indeed, it can be a zero-sum game sometimes. So I guess on this, maybe again, any last word from Professor Yuan about recommendation about how Taiwan can strengthen relations with the country?
With this diplomatic debacle, I will argue that Taiwan lost an important ally. I think it generated unintended consequences on the global level. That is, the people will realize how important Taiwan maintain its bilateral diplomatic relation with the remaining of our friends. So I think for international, also for domestic audience, I think we should be really reconsider about the importance and strategic significance by maintaining our remaining allies.
I see. So finally, very briefly, Cleo, again, same question to you. Any suggestion on how Taiwan can effectively engage with the Solomon Islands people in lieu of current official relationships?
The people of the Solomon Islands are being kept hostage by a very corrupt elite that is in deep with the Chinese Communist Party and organized crime. Chinese organized crime. And if the Australians were really serious about helping the Solomon Islands, then they would start going after that illegal money, corruption money that's being laundered through Australian bank accounts and real estates. I don't think Australia is going to stand up to the Chinese and the Solomon Islands. You just saw Prime Minister Albanese spending 6 days in China trying to normalize relations. However, I think Taiwan is very well placed, as it has done with Palau, to help the allies go after some of those Chinese organized crime elements that are corrupting the elite and keeping the prisoners hostage. So it may not be with the Australians, maybe with the Australians, but it could be with the Americans. The Japanese are doing a lot of good work. Even the Indians, but try to figure out a way of starving that corruption money that is currently taking over the country via Chinese organized crime and taking the elite prisoner in a way that has highly strategic implications.
I see. So thank you for that. Definitely finding like-minded friends and partners, pool resources. So we had to leave it here, but we'd like to thank our very distinguished expert today, Professor Yuan Yi, of course, and Professor Tsai, as well as all the way from North America, Cleo Pascal. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your time with us today. We really appreciate it. If you like our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching our show today. Stay safe and see you next time.